samsaradava nalalidaloka tranaya karuna ganaganatvam praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasorasena Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringaradhan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya bhaktam saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadana Triptan Harivaksha Sangha Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Radhika Madhava Yodhapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Nam Nam Pratikshana Dhanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayo no Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Bir Yukti Rapekshaniya Tatra Atidaksha Dativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda साक्षादारित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यतेव सर्वे किन्तु प्रभोय प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादा भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा न गति कुतोऽपि जयं सुवांस्तस्य यस्य श्रीसद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Neelamadava, Radha Neelamadava, Radhe. Jaya Radha Neelamadava, Radha Neelamadava, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnupada Pramhamsa Pratikacarya Stota Shata Shishmati Divine Grace Abarchana Vrinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBTP I founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupada Pramhamsa Pratikacarya Stota Shata Shishmati Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath-puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Samavrita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. To Narsimha Parato Narsimho. Yeto yeto yamikato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimho Rudaye Narsimho. Narasim Ramadim Sharanam Prapadye. Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Shinga Talita Hiranyakashipu Tano Vringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev. Jayo Bhakta Prahlad, Jayo Bhakta Prahlad, Jayo Bhakta Prahlad, Jayo Bhakta Prahlad. Nitai Jaya 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 Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
प्रेयसी नमो नमः। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी। जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वांछा पूर्ण हो। कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी। मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास। नयने हरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि। ये निवेदन धारो सकीरनुगत कोरो। सेवाधिकार धिये कोरो निज दासी। दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा हो। श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी. जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी. निताय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताय गौर हरि बोल. वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की. वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशव सचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रते देवे सत्यवताय नमो नमः. श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशव सचा विष्णु भक्ति प्रते देवे सत्यवताय नमो नमः. श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रते देवे सत्यवताय नमो नमः. वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय.
There are 10 fences in the metal chant holy names should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees of a dedicated life for propagating holy name the Lord. 2. To consider the name the demigods Allah, Shiva, or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider glorious chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna when the auspicious ritualistic activities offering the Vedas are fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glorious holy name. 10. To not to complete faith in the chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after studying so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as I treat who can fulfill to everyone, and their full compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto darpana marjanam pavamahadavakni nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Swatanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadishi Tava Kripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durdaivami Dishami Hajanina Nurakaha Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi Nathanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haitukitavai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Han Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Duri Sateshan Vichintaya Nayanam Galadashuru Dharaya Vatanam Gat Gata Rudaya Gira Pulaka Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Karhane Pavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jaga Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashrisha va padaratam pinnashtumam adarshana marmhatam karotuva yatha tatha va vitatatu lampato matprana nathastu sa eva na paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust that commit for years, and the extinguishes fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction of humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction of human beings. Thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, our kindness enables us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to commit wealth, nor desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sahamarnanda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow I fall into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me at one's ardent lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name, while my voice choke up, my hairs, my body stand and recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of separation, I'm considered a moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Shri Mangala Charna prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timrandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuddha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pajatite Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shrupa Nuka Bhaktita Shikara Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Mudaya Dina Darine Rupa Nuga Viruda Pasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Saksha Vairagya Mutaye Vipalambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajanapriyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kaupadarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishin Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sratoro Pango Mamamanda Materkati Masarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vindadana Kalpadumada Shimadranacara Singhasanasto Shimadratha Shila Govinda Devo Prestari Bi Sevamano Smarami Shiman Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Tata Stitaha Karsham Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinata Shiyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Mangala Chana prayers ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadhiradhya Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Parakara Satmasukalpa Viksha Lakshariteshu Surabhi Rabi Balayantam Lakshmi Sahasa Shatasam Brahmasevymanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Venum Kavanantam Aravinda Dalaya Daksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Gantarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Alola Chanta Kalasa Vanamada Vamshi Rananga Dampanaya Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Tripanga Lalitam Yata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Angani Yasya Sakalindriya Vrittimanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Satu Jala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durabam Adurabam Atma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Pantastu Koti Shatavassara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Munipungavanam Sopyasti Yapapata Simya Vichinta Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Ekopya Sara Chaitum Jagadanta Kodim Yachakti Rasti Jagadanta Chayaya Dantaha Antantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Yad Bhava Bhavitati Yo Manuchastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Pushaha Suktayam Eva Nikama Patitai Stuvanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Ananda Chimme Rasa Patibhavitapis Tapeya Evan Jarupa Taya Kalapihi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Pachami Premanjana Churutha Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hitayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundam Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ramati Murtishu Kalani Amena Tishtan Nana Vatara Makaro Puvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samapavat Paramapumamyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Pajami. Krishna, who is Govinda, the Supreme Godhead, he has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and the prime cause of all causes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with the head decked with the peacock feathers, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in the pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mandayan extending over thousands of millions of years.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, dance, conveyances, and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. has his subjective portions. Shri Brahma Samhita ki Jai. Bhagavad Gita 7.1 purport. Shrinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridanta stohi abhadrani vidnoti shruti satam nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhadhyayaschaye चेत एतेर अनाविधम स्थितम सत्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्न मनसो भगवत भक्ति योगतः भगवत तत्व विज्ञानम मुक्त संगस्य जायते बिद्रते हृदये ग्रन्थिश्चिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयः क्षीयन्ते चस्य कर्माणि दृष्ट्वा एवात्मनीश्वरे.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna was dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, and purifies a devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of bhakti of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 1.2.17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna.
Continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 2. Jnanam nishreyashrataya purushasyaatma darshanam yad ahur varnaye tatte hridaya granthi bhedanam. Jnanam, knowledge, nishresha arthaya, for the ultimate perfection, purushasya, of a man, atma darshanam, self-realization, yat, which, ahu, they said, varnaye, I shall explain, tat, that, te, to you, hridaya, in the heart, granthi, the knots, bhedanam, cuts. Translation: knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I shall explain that knowledge unto you by which the knots of attachment to the material world are cut. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It is said that by proper understanding of the pure self or by self-realization, one can be freed from material attachment. Knowledge leads one to attain the ultimate perfection of life and to see oneself as he is. The Shvetavatara Upanishad 3.8 also confirms this. Tam eva viditvati mrityum iti. Simply by understanding one's spiritual position or by seeing oneself as he is, one can be freed from material entanglement. In various ways, the seeing of oneself is described in the Vedic literatures and it is confirmed in the Bhagavatam. Purushasya Atma Darshanam. That one has to see oneself and know what he is. As Kapila Deva explains to his mother, This seeing can be done by hearing from the proper authoritative source. Kapila Deva is the greatest authority because he is the personality of Godhead. And if someone accepts whatever is explained as it is without interpretation, then he can see himself. Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami the real constitutional position of the individual. He said directly that each and every individual soul is eternally a servitor of Krishna. Jivera Swarupajaya Krishnera Nitya Dasa. Every individual soul is eternally a servitor. When one is fixed in the understanding that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul and that his eternal position is to serve in association with the Supreme Lord, he becomes self realized. This position of rightly understanding oneself cuts the knot of material attraction, Hridaya Granthi Bhedanam, due to false ego or false identification of oneself with the body and the material world. One is entrapped by Maya, but as soon as one understands that he is qualitatively the same substance of the Supreme Lord, because he belongs to the same category of spirit soul, and that his perpetual position is to serve, one attains Atma Darshanam and Hridaya Granthi Bhedanam, self realization. When one can cut the knot of attachment of the material world, his understanding is called knowledge. Atma Darshanam means to see oneself by knowledge. Therefore, when one is freed from the false ego by the cultivation of real knowledge, he sees himself, and that is the ultimate necessity of human life. The soul is thus isolated from the entanglement of the 24 categories of material nature. Pursuit of the systematic philosophic process called Sankhya is called knowledge and self revelation.
Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 3. Anaderatma Purusho Nirguna Prakrite Paraha Pratyag Dhamas Svayam Jyotir Vishwam Yena Samanvitam Anadihi, without a beginning, Atman, the Supreme Soul, Purushaha, the personality of Godhead, Nirgunaha, transcendental to the material modes of nature, Prakrite Paraha, beyond this material world, Pratyag Dhama, perceivable everywhere, Svayam Jyotihi, self-effulgent, Vishwam, the entire creation, Yena, by whom, Samanvitam, is maintained. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and He has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material modes of nature and beyond the existence of this material world. He is perceivable everywhere because He is self-effulgent, and by His self-effulgent luster, the entire creation is maintained. But by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as being without beginning. He is Purusha, the Supreme Spirit. Purusha means person. When we think of a person in our present experience, that person has a beginning. This means that he has taken birth and that there is a history from the beginning of his life. But the Lord is particularly mentioned here as Anadi, beginless. If we examine all persons, we will find that everyone has a beginning. But when we approach a person who has no beginning, he is the Supreme Person. And that is the definition given in the Brahma-samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, the Supreme Controller. The Supreme Controller. He is without beginning, and he is the beginning of everyone. This definition is found in all Vedic literatures. The Lord is described as the soul or spirit. What is the definition of spirit? Spirit is perceivable everywhere. Brahman means great. His greatness is perceived everywhere. And what is that greatness? Consciousness. We have personal experience of consciousness, for it is spread all over the body, in every hair, follicle of our body, we can feel consciousness. This is individual consciousness. Similarly, there is super consciousness. The example can be given of a small light and the sunlight. The sunlight is perceived everywhere, even within the room or in the sky, but the small light is experienced within a specific limit. Similarly, our consciousness is perceived within the limit of our particular body, but the super consciousness or the existence of God is perceived everywhere. He's present everywhere by his energy. It is stated in the Vishnu Purana that whatever we find anywhere and everywhere is distribution of the energy of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita also it is confirmed that the Lord is all pervading and exists everywhere by his two kinds of energy, one spiritual and other material. Both the spiritual and material energies are spread everywhere, and that is the proof of the existence of the Supreme Personality of God. The existence of consciousness everywhere is not temporary. It is without beginning, and because it is without beginning, it is also without end. The theory that consciousness develops at a certain stage of material combination is not accepted herein. For the consciousness which exists everywhere is said to be without beginning. The materialistic or atheistic theory, stating that there is no soul, that there is no God, and that consciousness is the result of a combination of matter, is not acceptable. Matter is not beginless. It has a beginning. As this material body has a beginning, the universal body does also. And as our material body has begun on the basis of our soul, the entire gigantic universal body has begun on the basis of the Supreme Soul. The Vedanta Sutra says Janmadhyasya. This entire material exhibition, its creation, its growth, its maintenance, and its dissolution, is an emanation from the Supreme Person. In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says, I am the beginning, the source of birth of everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described here. He is not a temporary person, nor does he have a beginning. He is without a cause, and he is the cause of all causes. Paraha means transcendental, beyond the creative energy. The Lord is the creator of the creative energy. We can see that there is a creative energy in the material world, but he's not under this energy. He is Prakriti Paraha, beyond this energy. He is not subjected to the threefold miseries created by the material energy because he is beyond it. The modes of material nature do not touch him. It is explained here, Swayam Jyotihi. He is light himself. Why we have an experience in the material world of one's light being a reflection of another. Just as moonlight is a reflection of the sunlight, sunlight is also a reflection of the Brahmajyoti. Similarly, Brahmajyoti, the spiritual effulgence, is a reflection of the body of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhavata. The Brahmajyoti or Brahman effulgence is due to his bodily luster. Therefore, it is said here, Swayam Jyotihi. He himself is light. His light is distributed in different ways, as the Brahmajyoti, as sunlight, and as moonlight. Bhagavad Gita confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunlight, moonlight, or electricity. The Upanishads also confirm this, because the bodily luster of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sufficient to illuminate the spiritual world. There is no need of sunlight, moonlight, or any other light or electricity. And this self-illumination also contradicts the theory that the spirit soul or the spiritual consciousness develops at a certain point in material combination. The term combination. The term Swayam Jyotihi indicates that there is no tinge of anything material or any material reaction. It is confirmed here that the concept of the Lord's all pervasiveness is due to his illumination everywhere. We have experienced that the sun is situated in one place, but the sunlight is diffused all around for millions and millions of miles. That is our practical experience. Similarly, although the spiritual supreme light is situated in his personal abode, Vaikuntha or Vrindavana, his light is diffused not only in the spiritual world but beyond that. In the material world also, that light is reflected by the sun globe, and the sunlight is reflected by the moon globe. Thus, although he is situated in his own abode, his light is distributed all over the spiritual and material worlds. The Brahma Samhita 5.37 confirms this. Goloka even Satya Kalatma Bhutaha. He's even in Goloka, but he is still present all over the creation. He's the super soul of everything, the supreme personality of Godhead, and he has innumerable transcendental qualities. It is also concluded that although he is undoubtedly a person, he is not Purusha of this material world. Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand that beyond this material world there can be a person. Therefore, they are impersonalists. But it is explained very nicely here that this personality of Godhead is beyond material existence.
Text 4. स एष प्रकृतिं सूक्ष्मां दैवीं गुणामयीं विभुः यदृच्छाययोपगताम् अभ्यापद्यात लीलया. Sah Eshaha, that same Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prakritim, material energy, Sukshmam, subtle, Daivim, related to Vishnu, Gunamayim, invested with the three modes of material nature, Vibhuhu, the greatest of the great, Yadrichaya, of his own will, Iva, quite, Upagatam, obtained, Abhya Padyata, he accepted, Leelaya, as his pastime. Translation: as his pastime, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy which is invested with three material modes of nature and which is related with Vishnu. Purport: by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this verse, the word Gunamayim is very significant. Daivim means the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Gunamayim means invested with the three modes of material nature. When the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, this Gunamayim energy acts as a manifestation of the energies of the three modes. It acts as a covering. The energy emanated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests in two ways: as an emanation from the Supreme Lord and as a covering of the Lord's face. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that because the whole world is illusioned by the three modes of material nature, the common conditioned soul, being covered by such energy, cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example of a cloud is very nicely given. All of a sudden, there may appear a big cloud in the sky. This cloud is perceived in two ways. To the sun, the cloud is a creation of its energy, but to the ordinary common man in the conditioned state, it is a covering to the eyes. Because of the cloud, the sun cannot be seen. It is not that the sun is actually covered by the cloud, only the vision of the ordinary being is covered. Similarly, although Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord, who is beyond Maya, the material energy covers the ordinary living entities. Those conditioned souls who are covered are individual living entities, and he from whose energy Maya is created is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In another place, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, 7th chapter, it is stated that Vyasadeva, by his spiritual vision, saw the Supreme Lord and the material energy standing behind him. This indicates that material energy cannot cover the Lord, just as darkness cannot cover the sun. Darkness can cover a jurisdiction which is very insignificant in comparison to that of the sun. Darkness can cover a small cave but not the open sky. Similarly, the covering capacity of the material energy is limited and cannot act on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is therefore called Vibhu. As the appearance of a cloud is accepted by the sun, so the appearance of the material energy. At a certain interval is accepted by the Lord, although his material energy is utilized to create the material world. This does not mean that he is covered by that energy. Those who are covered by the material energy are called conditioned souls. The Lord accepts the material energy for his material pastimes in creation, maintenance, and dissolution. But the conditioned soul is covered. He cannot understand that beyond this material energy there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes. Just as a less intelligent person cannot understand that beyond the covering of the clouds there is bright sunshine.
Text 5, Canto 3, Chapter 26. गुणैर्विचित्रा सृजितैं सरूपा प्रकृतिं प्रजाः विलोक्य मुमुहे सद्याः सा इह ज्ञानगुहया. Gunai by the threefold modes, Vichitraha variegated, Srijatim creating, Sarupaha with forms, Prakritim material nature, Prajaha living entities, Vilokya having seen, Mumuhe was illusion, Sadhyaha at once saw the living entity, Iha in this world, Gnana Duhaya by the knowledge covering feature. Translation: divided into varieties by her threefold modes, material nature creates the forms of the living entities, and the living entities seeing these are illusion by the knowledge covering feature of the illusory energy. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Material energy has a power to cover knowledge, but this covering cannot be applied to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is applicable only to the praja, or those who are born with material bodies. The conditioned soul, the conditioned souls. The different kinds of living entities vary according to the modes of material nature, as explained in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature. In Bhagavad Gita 7.12, it is very nicely explained that although the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance are born of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not subject to them. In other words, the energy emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot act on him. It acts on the conditioned souls who are covered by the material energy. The Lord is the Father of all living entities because he impregnates material energy with the conditioned souls. Therefore, the conditioned soul get bodies created by the material energy. Whereas the Father of the living entities is aloof from the three modes. It is stated in the previous verse that the material energy was accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order that he might exhibit pastimes for the living entities who wanted to enjoy and lord it over the material energy. This world was created through the material energy of the Lord for the so called enjoyment of such living entities. Why this material world was created for the suffering of the conditioned soul is very intricate question. There is a hint in the previous verse in the word Leelaya, which means for the pastimes of the Lord. The Lord wants to rectify the enjoying temperament of the conditioned soul. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita that no one is the enjoyer but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This material energy is created therefore for anyone who pretends to enjoy. An example can be cited here that there is no necessity for the government's creation of a separate police department, but because it is a fact that some of the citizens will not accept the state laws, a department to deal with criminals is necessary. There is no necessity, but at the same time, there is a necessity. Similarly, there was no necessity to create this material world for the sufferings of the conditioned soul, but at the same time, there are certain living entities known as Nitya Baddha who are eternally conditioned. We say that they have been conditioned from time immemorial because no one can trace out when the living entity, the part and parts of the Supreme Lord, became rebellious against the supremacy of the Lord. It is a fact that there are two classes of men, those who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Lord and those who are atheists or agnostics, who do not accept the existence of God and who want to create their own laws. They want to establish that everyone can create his own laws or his own religious path without tracing out the beginning of the existence of these two classes. we can take it for granted that some of the living entities revolted against the laws of the Lord. Such entities are called conditioned souls, for they are conditioned by the three modes of material nature. Therefore, the word Gunair Vichitraha are used here. In this material world, there are 8,400,000 species of life. As spirit souls, they are all transcendental to this material world. Why then do they exhibit themselves in different stages of life? The answer is given here. They are under the spell of the three modes of material nature because they were created by the material energy. Their bodies are made of the material elements. Covered by the material body, the spiritual identity is lost, and therefore the word Mumihe is used here, indicating that they have forgotten their own spiritual identity. This forgetfulness of spiritual identity is present in the jivas or souls who are conditioned, being subject to be covered by the energy of material nature. Gnana, Guhaya is another word used. Guha means covering, because the knowledge of the minute conditioned soul is covered. They are exhibited in so many species of life. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th chapter, 1st canto, the living entities are illusioned by the material energy. In the Vedas also it is stated that the eternal living entities are covered by the different modes and that they are called tricolored, red, white and blue living entities. Red is a representation of the mode of passion, white is a representation of the mode of goodness, and blue is a representation of mode of ignorance. These modes of material nature belong to the material energy, and therefore the living entities under these different modes of material nature have different kinds of material bodies. Because they are forgetful of their spiritual identities, they think the material bodies to be themselves. To the conditioned soul, me means the material body. This is called moha or bewilderment. It is repeatedly said in the Katha Upanishad that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never affected by the influence of material nature. It is rather the conditioned soul or the minute infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme who are affected by the influence of material nature and who appear in different bodies under the material modes.
इदं परभिध्यायेन का कर्तृत्वं प्रकृते पुमान् कर्माशु क्रियमाणेषु गुणैरात्मानि मन्यते. Evam, in this way, para other abhidhyayena, nena, by identification, kartritvam, the performance of activities, prakrite, of the material nature, puman, the living entity, karmashu kriyameneshu, kriyanameshu, while the activities are being performed, gunahi, by the three modes, atmani, to himself, manyate, he considers. Translation. Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his fields of activities, and thus actuated. Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his fields of activities, and thus actuated. I don't know. And thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. I didn't know how to say it. Keep going. Purport. The forgetful living entity can be compared to a man who is under the influence of divinities and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts, who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. Under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in the material consciousness. In, in this consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of the material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self actuated. Actually, the soul is the soul in its pure state of existence should be in Krishna consciousness. When a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness. Consciousness cannot be understood to be acting in material consciousness. Consciousness cannot be killed, for the symptom of the living entity is consciousness. The material consciousness simply has to be purified. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna or the Supreme Lord as master and by changing the mode of consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness.
Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 7. Tadasis Mastir Bandaha Paratantrayam Cha Tatkritam Bhavatya Kruta Turisha Ishasya Shakshino Naivrita Manaha. That from the misconception Asya of the conditioned soul, Samsritihi conditioned life, Bandaha bondage, Paratantrayam dependence, Cha and Tatkritam made by that, Bhavati is ak- Akartuhu of the non-doer, Ishasya independent, Shakshinaha the witness, Naivartaha Atmanaha joyful by nature. Translation. Material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life, in which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Although the spirit soul does not do anything and is transcendental to such activities, he is thus affected by conditional life. Purport by by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Mayavadi philosopher who does not differentiate between the spirit, supreme spirit, and individual spirit says that the conditional existence of the living entity is his lila or pastime. But the word pastime implies employment in the activities of the Lord. The Mayavadis misuse the word and say that even if the living entity has become a stool-eating hog, he is also enjoying his pastimes. This is the most this is a most dangerous interpretation. Actually, the Supreme Lord is the leader and maintainer of all living entities. His pastimes are transcendental to any material activity. Such pastimes of the Lord cannot be dragged to the level of the conditional activities of living entities. In conditional life, the living entity actually remains as if a captive in the hands of material energy. Whatever the material energy dictates, the conditional soul does. He has no responsibility. He is simply the witness of the action. But he is forced to act in that way due to his offense in his eternal relationship with Krishna. Lord Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita that Maya, material energy, is so forceful that it is insurmountable. But if a living entity simply understands that his constitutional position is to serve Krishna and he tries to act on this principle, then however conditioned he may be, the influence of Maya immediately vanishes. This is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Krishna takes charge of anyone who surrenders into him in helplessness, and thus the influence of Maya conditioned life is removed. The spirit soul is actually Satchitananda, eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. Under the conscious of Maya, however, he suffers from continued birth, death, and disease and old age. One has to be serious to cure this condition of material existence and transfer himself to Krishna consciousness, for thus his long suffering may be mitigated without difficulty. In summary, the suffering of the conditional soul is due to its attachment to material nature. Thus, this attachment should thus be transferred from matter to Krishna.
Text 8. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे कारणं प्रकृतिं विदुः भोक्तृत्वे सुख दुःखानां पुरुषां प्रकृति param. Karya, the body, Karana, the senses, Kartrutve, regarding the demigods, Karanam, the causes, Prakritim, material nature, Vidu, the learned, understand, Bhoktrutve, regarding the perception, Sukha, happiness, Dukkhanam, of distress, Purusham, the supreme soul, Prakrite, to material nature, Param, transcendental. Translation: the cause of the conditioned soul's material body and senses, and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that when the Lord descends to this material world, he comes as a person by his own energy. Atma Maya. He is not forced by any superior energy. He comes by his own will, and this can be called his pastime or Leela. But here it is clearly stated that the conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses under the three modes of material nature. That body is not received according to his own choice. In other words, a conditioned soul has no free choice. He has to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. But when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself. If he so desires, the spirit soul can change this conditional life of dualities by choosing to serve Krishna. The living entity is the cause of his own suffering, but he can also be the cause of eternal happiness. When he wants to engage in Krishna consciousness, a suitable body is offered to him by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord, and when he wants to satisfy his senses, a material body is offered. Thus, it is his free choice to accept a spiritual body or a material body. But once the body is accepted, he has to enjoy or suffer the consequences. We must get up. Sit nicely. This is not a home. The Mayavadi philosopher's presentation is that the living entity enjoys his pastimes by accepting the body of a hog. This theory is not acceptable, however, because the word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment. Therefore, this interpretation is most misleading. When there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. The Lord's pastimes and the conditioned living entity's acceptance of karmic reaction are not on the same level.
देवहूतिर्वाच प्रकृते पुरुषस्यापि लक्षणं पुरुषोत्तमा ब्रूहि कारणयोरास्य सदसच्च यदात्मकाम्. Devahuti Uvacha. Devahuti said, Prakritehe, of his energies, Purusasya, of the Supreme Person, Api, also Lakshanam, characteristics, Purushottama, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bruhi, kindly explain, Karanayoho, causes, Asya, of this creation, Sat Asat, manifest and unmanifest, Cha and Yathatmakam, consisting of which. Translation: Devahuti said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and his energies. For both of these are the causes of this manifest and unmanifest creation. put. Prakriti or material nature is connected with both the Supreme Lord and the living entities, just as a woman is connected with her husband as a wife and with her children as a mother. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He impregnates Mother Nature with His children, living entities, and thereafter all species of living entities have become manifest. The relationship of all living entities, which material nature has been explained, now understanding of the relationship between material nature and the Supreme Lord is sought by relationship between material nature and the Supreme Lord is sought by Devahuti. The product of this relationship is stated to be the manifest in unmanifest material world. The unmanifest material world is the subtle Mahatattva, and from the Mahatattva, the material manifestation has emerged. In the Vedic literature, it is said that by the glance of the Supreme Lord, the total material energy is impregnated. And then everything is born of material nature. It is also confirmed in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that under his glance, Adhyakshena, under his direction, and by his will, nature is working. It is not that nature works blindly. After understanding the position of the conditions, after understanding the position of the conditioned souls in relation to material nature, Devahuti wanted to know how nature works under the direction of the Lord and what the relationship is between the material nature and the Lord. Okay. In other words, she wanted to learn the characteristics of the Supreme Lord in relation to the material nature. The relationship of the living entities with matter and that of the Supreme Lord with matter are certainly not on the same level. Although the Mayavadis may interpret it in that way, when it is said the living entities are bewildered, the Mayavadi philosophers ascribe the bewilderment to the Supreme Lord, but that is not applicable. The Lord is never bewildered. That is the difference between personalists and impersonalists. Devahuti is not unintelligent. She has enough intelligence to understand that the living entities are not on the level of the Supreme Lord. Because the living entities are infinitesimal, they become bewildered or conditioned by material nature. But this does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also conditioned or bewildered. The difference between the conditioned souls and the Lord is that the Lord is the Lord, the master of material nature, and he is therefore not subject to its control. He is controlled neither by spiritual nature nor by material nature. He is the supreme controller himself, and he cannot be compared to the ordinary living entities who are controlled by the laws of material nature. Two words used in this verse are Sat and Asat. The cosmic manifestation in Asat does not exist, but the cosmic manifestation is Asat. It does not exist, but the material energy of the Supreme Lord is Sat, or ever existing. Material nature is never material nature is ever existing in its subtle form as the energy of the Lord, but it sometimes manifests as this non-existent or temporarily existent nature, the cosmos. An analogy may be made with the father and mother. The mother and the father exist, but sometimes the mother begets children. Similarly, this cosmic manifestation, which comes from the unmanifest material nature of the Supreme Lord, sometimes appears and again disappears. But the material nature is an ever existing, and the Lord is the supreme cause for both the subtle and gross manifestations of this material world.
Text 10. No. Follow. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha यत्तत्त्रिगुणम् अव्यक्तं नित्यं सदसदात्मकं प्रधानं प्रकृतिं प्राहुर् अविशेषं विशेषवात्. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Yet now further, that Trigunam, combination of the three modes, Avyaktam, unmanifested, Nityam, eternal, Sat Asat Atmakam, consisting of cause and effect, Pradhanam, the Pradhana, Prakriti, Prahu, they call, Avishesham, undifferentiated, Visheshavat, possessing differentiation. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, The unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called Pradhana. It is called Prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord points out material nature in its subtle stage, which is called Pradhana, and He analyzes this Pradhana. The explanation of Pradhana and Prakriti that Pradhana is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called Prakriti. Impersonalists say that Brahman is without variegatedness and without differentiation. One may say that Pradhana is the Brahman stage, but actually the Brahman stage is not Pradhana. Pradhana is distinct from Brahman because in Brahman there is no existence of the material modes of nature. One may argue that the Mahatattva is also different from Pradhana because in the Mahatattva there are manifestation. The actual explanation of Pradhana, however, is given here. When the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place, and that stage of material nature is called Pradhana. Pradhana is not the time element, because in the time element there are actions and reactions, creation and annihilation, nor is it the jiva or the marginal potency of living entities or designated conditional living entities, because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. One adjective used in this connection is nitya, which indicates eternality. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is called pradhana. Text 11. पंचभिर्ब्रह्मा चतुर्भिर्दशभिस्तदा एतच्चतुर्विमि विंशतिकं गणं प्रधानिकं विदुः. Panchabihi, with the five gross elements. Panchabihi, the five subtle elements. Brahman. Chaturbhihi, the four internal senses. Dashabhihi, the ten five senses for gathering knowledge and five organs of action. Tada, in that way, eta, this, chatu, vimshatikam, consisting of 24 elements. Ganam, aggregate. Pradhanikam, comprising the pradhana. Vidu, they know. Translation: the aggregate elements, namely the five gross elements, the five subtle elements, the four internal senses, the five senses for gathering knowledge, and the five outward organs of action are known as pradhana. According to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of 24 elements, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, According to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of the 24 elements described herein is called Yonir Mahad Brahma. The sum total of the living entities is impregnated into this Yonir Mahad Brahma, and they are born in different forms, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. In the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature, the sum total of the 24 elements, Pradhana, is also described as Yonir Mahad Brahma. It is the source of birth and subsistence of all living entities. Today we read up to Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 11. We'll continue reading tomorrow. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokan Samastu Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Moi Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Baba Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hate Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uthama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Chakudana Dilo Jai Janme Prabhu She Chakshudana Dilo Jai Divya Gyana Rida Prakasito Divya Gyana Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Vedigaya Jahara Charito Vedigaya Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokanata Loke Raji Vana Lokanata Loke Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Pada Chaya Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Pada Chaya Ebe Jasa Gu Suk Sri Bhu Vana Sukribhuvana Prabhupada Patita Pavana Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namah Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastatya Desha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only by which you can attain pure devotional service. I bow down